Network. Attorney General Ellison, thank you for your time, sir.
Great to be here.
I want to ask you just a few questions. From your perspective, how would you grade the state of the current social justice movement?
Well, honestly, I think it's mixed. There's some very positive developments, and there's some very real challenges. What I think we need to do in this moment is recognize that we're literally staring at minority rule through the Supreme Court and gerrymandered districts. People who represent a distinct and substantial minority are trying to control the rest of the country. These people are anti-democratic. They are very, very, very pro-gun. I believe that they have tremendous threat of violence. I think that we should be very concerned about political violence, threats to the polls. I think that January 6th is not to be ignored. We cannot just assume that we handle that and understand that the MAGA movement really is nothing but the latest iteration of a movement to exclude Black people, brown people, all people who are not Caucasian, women, anybody. It is a movement to monopolize power in the country and exclude others from it. So what are the challenges? Well, the challenges are to continue to spread democracy. I think the Black press is an indispensable partner in this. And I think, getting the word out, being a forum for meaningful dialogue and conversation, and also really expanding participation and is the key. I mean, think about all the things that overwhelming numbers of Americans of all colors want, but we don't have. We can't get any action on climate. Why? Even though the shoreline is dying, even though people who live in low-lying areas, houses getting consumed, even though we can't breathe in northern cities because of Canada wildfires, which are related to climate, we can't get no action on climate. I mean, on the issue of choice, right? Most people think whether a woman wants to have a baby is her business, but now it's the Supreme Court business. Now it's some legislator's business. I mean, what do they have to do with her family situation? Well, they're injecting themselves in that. Most people think that's wrong. Most people think there should be meaningful gun control. We live in a country where we've had about 180 days in this year, but over 320 mass shootings. What's a mass shooting? More than 4 people shot in a single incident. And yet we can't make any changes on it because we live in minority rule. Because Clarence Thomas says the Second Amendment is supreme. Because you look at this recent situation with affirmative action, which always blows my mind. Because from 1619 to 1968, America was overtly had a program of affirmative action for white people. Now suddenly, we can't have affirmative action because that's unfair. Wait a minute. What are they doing about legacy? Harvard is still going to let the children of the rich and the white go there. That just means we can't go. That just means we can't. The people who have been historically abused and mistreated and excluded, they can't get any kind of acknowledgement of that. But if your mom and dad went to Yale, you can go. If your daddy is going to put a lot of money and buy a new chemistry lab, you can go. Don't forget Felicity Huffman and the whole college scandal. These rich kids whose parents literally were bribing their ways into the best colleges. And if you think that scandal is over, come on. And they're sending Black women to prison because they live in a bad school district, and they say that, oh no, I actually live here in an address with a better school district. Sisters doing years in prison because they're trying to give their kids a better educational opportunity. Felicity Huffman gets busted and caught and does 2 weeks in jail. And so I mean, it's so okay. So what else is new? We live under an oppressive situation. We have agency, we have intelligence, we have strategic ability, we have initiative, and we're using all of them. We just got to use them more, recognizing that after the Civil War, 1866 to 1877, we had a black caucus, we had black schools, we had black banks, and we had a lot. There was a flowering of black energy and achievement. But then, when the Supreme Court and the U.S. Congress decided enough is enough, they started passing oppressive laws. By the year 1900, there's no more African Americans in Congress anymore. Lynching dramatically increases. I think it's very important for African Americans to understand that with this unfair Supreme Court rulings in Congress and state court action, they always have a parallel terrorist movement. And I'm talking about lynching. Now you see those racist guys with the tiki torches in Charlottesville. I think we need to be on the alert for this because these two things always work together. You always got the white collar Klan and the blue collar Klan. They always work in tandem. They certainly did 100 years ago, and I fear that they will again. So these are the challenges facing us. What the Supreme Court is doing is, to me, predictable. It's backlash. But you know what? History doesn't have to repeat itself. We now know enough history to counter this negative direction. Hats off to the Black Lives Matter movement, willing to get out in the street, demand greater level of justice. Hats off to the black press, and we need people to get involved, and we need people to have agency. We need people to be creative. We need the arts community to do film, to do plays, to do poetry, to inspire people. We need all of this. But I'm actually hopeful, but I'm not blind.
And you mentioned anti-democratic movements.
Sure.
That made me think about the court system that was set up in Jackson, Mississippi.
Right.
The takeover of
Right.
Houston Independent School District,
Right.
about the state.
In Michigan. Yeah, we're seeing these anti-democratic trends. You mentioned Jackson, you mentioned Houston, you mentioned Detroit. Where there was a fiscal manager who just said, you know what, y'all? We're taking over your school district. These are things, but we got to fight these things. But look, I believe in us. We're not going to just take it lying down. We're always going to keep on pushing back. And I have a lot of optimism that we will. But we can't leave any tools on the table. We got to run for office, but we can't think that being in office is the whole answer, right? We gotta. The office holder has to respect the activists in the street. The activists in the street needs to respect the office holder. All need to respect the importance of the press and the word. And we need to, like I said, I'm a very strong believer in activism in the arts community because they inspire, right, in a whole new way. So we just need to build allyships, of course, But I think the main thing is you got to understand that you are in the middle of a historic backlash that is trying to diminish your ability to be free and equal in the land of your birth. And you can't think, well, that one thing happened, too bad. That one thing happened, oh, that's too bad. No, add them all up. Add up Citizens United, Shelby County. Add up the removal of affirmative action. Add up Citizens United, which says that massive corporations can get involved in politics in a whole new way. Put all this stuff together and say, what does it mean, right? And what it means is retrenchment. And then think about this. And I'm not saying this because the Democratic Party is perfect. I don't think that it is. But think about this. Who is the most popular Republican? The most racist Republican. If you're a Republican who doesn't want to be a racist bigot, if you're Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger or even Mitt Romney, you can't win no primary. You got to be the meanest, nastiest, and most hateful, and that's who's winning their races. So now, of course, Trump is important to their movement, but he's also not indispensable to their movement. Trump is a symptom. And it's important to keep that in mind. So it is key to understand activism and engagement. I don't tell people what to do, but I just say do it. If you're a writer, write. If you're a singer, sing. If you're a lawyer, litigate. But this is the time to be clear about what the score is and clear about the need for urgent action.
In terms of doing what you do, that's pretty much what your book is about, right?
Sure.
You know, because without what you do, there would have been no justice after George Floyd killed. Can you say a word about your book?
Well, let me say this about my book. It says Keith Ellison on it, but it really was a group effort. I mean, I don't mean that to be fake humble. I mean that truly, it was a collaborative effort. Big thanks to my colleagues at the Attorney General's office, but also to Judge Blackwell, who who volunteered when he was a private attorney, to Steve Slisher, to Lola Velasquez, people who stepped up, who were not even part of my office, but I asked them to help, and they did. Thanks to those people who happened to be on the corner and saw George Floyd murdered in front of them, these people were not professional witnesses. This is not what they do. They're just folks who are going to the corner store on Memorial Day and happened to be there, and they showed up a year later to tell what they saw, to great pain to themselves. None of them got up on that witness stand and then got off that witness stand without grievous personal pain. They were all in tears as they relived that tragedy. So I'm real grateful for all the help that we got, and I just hope people read the book, because we can't forget what happened to George Floyd. Since George Floyd, I get calls on a regular basis about some tragic incident, and so I've been in a number of conversations, and the point is these cases can be won. They don't have to go to the way of the first Rodney King case where there was acquittals, or the Walter Scott case where there was a hung jury, or the Eric Garner case where there was no charge, or the Sandra Bland case, no charge, or the Breonna Taylor case where Daniel Cameron literally sabotaged the prosecution. It doesn't have to go that way. These cases can be won if competent counsel will put on a good case. And so I hope that the pressure gets on them, because you can throw a case. You can just say, well, I'm not going to call the right witnesses. I'm going to forget to call certain people. Like Daniel Cameron, and this is not an exaggeration, used a grand jury. Publicly said the grand jury refused to indict any of the officers who killed Breonna Taylor. He did not present any charges for them to charge the officers who killed Breonna Taylor. There was no possibility that they could. But then he goes to the public and says the grand jury didn't do it. Grand jurors sued to try to come tell their story. As you know, grand juries have to be secret. They can be in contempt of court if they speak out of turn. But they're trying to get the judge to say, let us tell the truth about what this liar said about us. And now this cat is the one running for governor in Kentucky. My point is, he's not an honest person. And he's ambitious, and he's a tool of the people who do not believe in fairness.
And you said using our voice, and this is the last question. How important is the Black press for using and amplifying the voices of the Black community?
Here's how important the Black press is. I don't go through a week without reading the Black press. I personally rely on the Black press, because we live in an age where it may seem like we have a lot of sources of news, but quite honestly, we don't. Newsrooms all over the country have cut their staff. You're relying on the big newspapers to tell you what's going on. Well, no, you need to rely on a trusted source who has integrity, who believes in telling the truth. And that Black press is trying to get you the real news about what's really happening. It's amazing to me about, if you look at the mainstream press, they're actually getting this one little story. You might just have somebody who supplies different news agencies with the same story. And so you want to read about something, you only get one version of it. But the Black press is giving you the real story about what's going on now. And the Black press is bigger than just newspaper. every black press I know. They might print a version, but they got electronic version. Now they're using more live stream audio, video, podcasts. And so they're up to date. They are meeting the moment with technology. Again, the real thing is, it's hard to know what to believe if you don't get any news. It's also hard to know what's really the truth if you're getting flooded by a ton of false fake news. So then who do you trust in a time when you just can't make heads or tails? The black press.